And then I will, I do like an intro and, I welcome everybody that's here already. We're just kind of getting started so that we start the Facebook live on time this time because technical difficulties.
You're always damn late, Pablo.
So yeah. But Rachel, we were just talking about that moving is like the worst thing ever. It's going well?
Yeah. It is. So we have all the hard stuff behind us. Now that we're here in Colorado, the unpacking is kind of fun, actually. It's a lot easier. And we are, I would say, 95% of the way unpacked. So we're in pretty good shape.
Awesome.
What's the weather like right now out there in Colorado?
Actually, today has been the first overcast day that we've had so far in about, 12 days. It's been sunny and blue skies otherwise. So It's really nice. It's chilly in the mornings and then it warms up. I love it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, and you're from Louisville, right?
Yeah, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I lived there for 20 years.
Gotcha. So,
I was actually born in Michigan.
It's pronounced Louisville.
Louisville.
Right?
Louisville. Yeah, you guys did a pretty good job. Yeah.
Yeah. Just FYI, rookie.
Louisville.
You just have to use as least syllables as possible. Put as little effort into saying it as possible. It's pretty crazy because last weekend, I think it was last week, weekend before this one, but it was supposed to be the Kentucky Derby and they had to postpone that to September, but I have never seen that happen in my lifetime. So crazy.
Yeah.
The postponement you've never seen in your life. I'm assuming
right.
You've been to
I've seen the Derby.
Yeah.
Some love from University of Kentucky. I don't know who your allegiances are.
UK. I had a UK shirt on yesterday. So yeah, my little sister went to UK, so I do have to be loyal to them.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big Gator fan and they always whoop us in basketball. So well, we got some folks here joining us. Welcome everybody. Let us know where you're from. I can tell that we've got some folks from Kentucky area because we got some Kentucky basketball fans. Let's see where we've got. If you want to put your name and we'll put where you're from in the chat. Just make sure you put it to all panelists and attendees. We're just kind of getting started here before we kick off the show. We've got Louis from California. And we've got Richard Gill is a UK fan and Lee Bishop is I think he's a horse racing fan. So
there you go. So everybody that's joining us, welcome. We have 33 people on with us already. A little bit different if you've been with us in the past. We realize it takes us really long to go onto Facebook and my face is doing all sorts of crazy things as I'm like doing the technology thing. So we decided to just let you in and let you behind the scenes so that we go live on time. And we are about to kick off right now. So we are live. Welcome everybody to the Not Your Average Investor Show. Today is a super special show because we're doing something totally different. I am your host, Pablo Gonzalez. My co-host as always, Greg Cohen. Say hi, Greg.
Hey, everybody.
And we have with us a really, really special guest. She is a best-selling author, Rachel Richards, who has made a name for herself by retiring by the age of 27 because she built up more than $10,000 a month in passive income. She's also published a best-selling book called Money Honey. She has published her second book called Passive Income, Aggressive Retirement. She is a finance expert that started in a career as a financial analyst and has made a name for herself, and we're bringing her on the show. Welcome, Rachel. How are you doing?
Hey, Pablo, thank you so much for having me on. I'm great. How are you guys?
Doing great. Like Greg and I talk about this. This is our favorite time of the week. We have a couple people that show up with us, like our community that shows up every week, like Lee Bishop and other guests. And it's just become kind of our family fireside chat. And it's a lot of fun. So I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping for everybody that's new here. And then we're just going to go dive in. Okay. So for everybody that's joining us, if you've been with us before, you know the deal, right? But there is a chat box where you can talk to us and you can talk to all other panelists and attendees. If you want to talk to the other attendees, you need to hit the drop-down menu and switch it to all panelists and attendees, or else only we are seeing it. If you have questions for today, for Rachel or for us, We are going to focus the first half an hour on having a conversation with Rachel, and then we're going to take questions. If Rachel has a little bit of extra time, we'll go into some of the Q&A. If not, we'll address it in our Thursday Q&A calls, but we keep track of everything. As long as you're putting it into that Q&A box, we're keeping track of everything. And if there's anything that our team can reach out and answer for you personally, we will. So I really encourage that everybody, you put in your actual name into the thing so that we know who is asking and we can get back to you. And if you hear anything that makes you just dying to invest in real estate income, rental income properties, or you have a specific question of how it fits into your portfolio, go to chatwithjwb.com. You schedule a call with our guys. We can talk you through any kind of specific issue that you may have, what it looks like for you, the benefits, all the good stuff. And without further ado, I want to get into this conversation because I've been looking forward to it for like a month and a half now. Rachel.
Hello.
Yes. Can you just give us a little background of how does somebody, get to the point where you're, how does somebody retire at 27 years old? Just give us kind of like the cliff notes and then we'll dive in a little bit deeper.
Oh, for sure. And I think Lee had asked, how did I get into real estate? So real estate investing is something I had always wanted to do. From a very young age, I'm like a super nerd and I love reading books about finance and real estate investing. So I always knew that I wanted to invest in real estate. And to me, it's one of the best tools for building long-term wealth. So it was something I wanted to do always. In my early 20s, I started saving money. I actually graduated from college without debt because I sold Cutco cutlery. Have you guys heard of Cutco knives?
I really loved hanging out with you when you told me that you sold Cutco knives in college. That is fantastic.
Yes, thank you. So that's what I did to graduate without debt. And after I graduated, I was really diligent about saving money. So at age 24, this was in 2017, my then boyfriend, now husband, and I invested in our first duplex together. So, and keep in mind, we were in Louisville, Kentucky. It's a very low cost of living area. It's nothing like California or Denver or New York City or anything. So the duplex we bought was $100,000. Super cheap, even for Louisville. So we put 20 grand down on it. We both put 10 grand in from money that we had saved. And that's where our journey began. Over the next few years, we just kept working on buying more, acquiring more properties. And in a span of about 2.5 years, we bought all of the properties we own. So we own 6 properties today. It's about, I think it's 38 units, like 38 doors total. And in any given month, of course, the exception is right now when we're in the middle of coronavirus, but in a normal month, we're making anywhere from $7,000 to $12,000 per month in pure cash flow. So pure profit.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And we're going to get into, just so give everybody a preview of the conversation, right? We're going to dig into a little bit more of this journey of passive of rental income property investing. We're going to talk about the other passive investment streams. We're going to talk about your books. And we're also going to dig into the whole coronavirus thing because I think it's pretty topical for someone like you. But can you talk us through buying your first, that first duplex? I've heard you talk about it as this is the best deal I'm ever going to get. And can you just kind of give us a story of how you found that property, what it took to get there and
yes.
how it goes on? Yeah.
Yes. And it is the best deal I think we'll ever do. We just got so lucky. A lot of these things, you're just in the right place at the right time and you can really get lucky. I know a lot of investors, don't like to use the MLS because it's so competitive. So I found this duplex, but I was actually looking at expired and canceled listings on the MLS. I actually have my real estate license in Kentucky as well, so I had access to all of those things. I just have it for the purpose of buying my own properties. So I saw this listing. I was really, really interested in it. It was in a great area. And I reached out to the agent and I was like, hey, what happened with this? What's going on? Is it going to come back on the market? And I guess I would say I sort of pestered her for about 3 months. And I was basically wanting to be top of mind because she said, yeah, it's eventually going to come back on the market. And I wanted her to come to me first. And she did. So before she even relisted it, she came to me first. She was like, hey, we're about to list this. Do you want to make an offer? And I said, yes. So we literally, we were the first ones to make an offer on the property. She never even listed it. We worked out a deal and it went through. And we put down $20,000. We had to redo one entire unit because it was just, you couldn't even live in it. The other one was already rented. But once we renovated that vacant unit and rented it, we were already cash flowing about $500 per month in profit. And now today it's more like $800 or $900 a month because rents have increased and so forth.
So what are some of the challenges that you face from the time? Because, you know, there's that 3 months of pestering, which a lot of people have to do, right? Especially if they're going through the MLS, or there's just pounding the pavement to find that real estate deal. Whatever way you cut it, there's a lot of work to do there. What was maybe the next biggest challenge that you faced with your first property? Because I know from experience, and I would imagine it's the same for you, it looks good on paper, but getting to that point where you're receiving positive cash flow, you know, it can be a lot of work. And if you haven't done it before, it can be scary. So maybe what are some of the biggest challenges or fears that you had going through the process?
So it's funny you say that because I still make mistakes and I mean, I laugh at them, but I don't think you ever stop learning in real estate investing. You know, you're always learning. There's always challenges and things that you're overcoming. But one thing I learned early on is you have to be patient finding these deals. We searched for that first duplex for 9 months. We put in offers on other properties. Contracts fell through, inspections, you know, made us want to back out once we learned things. So it's not like it was the first, we got lucky and it was the first thing we looked at. It was a lot of work going in, but patience pays off. And it's the most important thing to be patient and wait for the right opportunity. Because if you settle for something or the numbers just don't quite work, but you just want it so bad, like that's just not going to end up being a good investment. So I would say be patient, wait for the right deal to come. You'll know when it's a really good deal and you'll be ready to jump on it like I did. I'll share another funny, well, it was not funny at the time, but it is funny now. So I'll share it with you as another big mistake that we made, big learning lesson. We had bought another duplex in 2018 that we were going to reconfigure into more units than just 2. And so it was vacant when we bought it. And it was in like an okay area of town. I wasn't concerned about crime, but it maybe wasn't the most safe area of town either. So we bought a security system. We were going to go ahead and put it in. And I think it was the day that we closed, we had all these appliances that were delivered that day. And I'm talking, it was about $10,000 or $15,000 worth of brand new appliances. And we had the security system. We figured, okay, we'll put it up over the weekend. So you can probably see where this is going. I got a call from my contractor like 2 days after we closed. He said, "Hey, Rachel, I have some bad news. Looks like the property has been broken into." And I was like, oh God. So I was like, "Are the appliances there?" And he was like, "Yes." And I was like, oh, thank goodness. Whoever broke in, I was so lucky. I think it was just a couple teenagers. They took whatever they could carry. So they took the microwaves, they took the lock boxes, and they stole the security system that we bought. So that was extremely ironic. I think it was about $1,000 worth of damage. So it really wasn't terrible. We just ate that cost, and big learning lesson though, because man, that could have been so much worse. So you just have to keep in mind, protect your properties, protect your physical assets and get your security systems in place the day that you close.
And those things, they do happen. We manage thousands of properties and it happens, right? But I think on your first deal, we really, really hope that it doesn't happen on our first deal, because I remember what it felt like the hopes and dreams of making this real estate transaction come together were like all wrapped up in this first deal. And as long as you can avoid something really painful like that on the first one, it is a natural cost of business of, when you see thousands of properties that you manage. But what I want to understand, Rachel, is, going back to that 24-year-old, was it 24 when you did your first deal? All right. So there was a whole bunch of other things that you could have been spending your time and your money on, right? Because I started to invest right around 24 as well. I think it was 23 or 24, one of those 2 years. And I remember it being really, really weird compared to everybody else who was 23 or 24, because I was so focused on putting these real estate transactions together. And for me, there was this huge defining moment when it just clicked for me. Was there a huge moment for you when it just clicked and you were like, oh my goodness, if I can start doing this at 23 or 24, I'm going to really set myself up for 34, or in your case, 27, right? What was that defining moment for you when it just clicked?
I would say after we bought that first property, because until then, it had been this thing that I was imagining and this thing that I was hoping would work, but I didn't know if it was a sure thing. Once we bought that first property and the numbers worked exactly the way we wanted, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. We are going to make this happen. And I just knew that my life was going to be different because I could replicate this process over and over again, and I could be retired before you know it. Actually, it's funny because my initial goal with retiring early was you probably have heard this method before, but I was going to buy a single family house every year for 15 years, all on 15-year mortgages, and then retire in my mid-30s. So that was my initial plan. It's so funny to me now how fast things went for us, because in a span of 3 years, we basically are where we are at now. And I was able to retire at age 27. So it's just amazing. Once you get going, that momentum can build really quickly. It did not take us long to acquire our next property because we were already good savers. And then we were saving this extra $500-600 per month as well to reinvest into the business. So we acquired, the next property months later. But yeah, it was definitely an eye-opening moment because all of a sudden I was like, okay, this is real. I can do this. It was really cool.
It was one of my favorite parts of your book, Passive Income Aggressive Retirement, when you actually mapped out what this looks like after you do this for 15 years, and you mapped out, right, what you would need to purchase for those 10 properties, I think is the example. You mapped out what the cash flows are, and it got so from years 15 on when those mortgages are paid off, right? I mean, just mapping that out, visually seeing that, I think is so helpful.
Yeah, I mean, you think about most people who save up all their money to have a nest egg at age 65 and maybe still don't have enough. And then what you can do with real estate in a matter of a decade and then be fully retired. I mean, there's nothing else like it.
I love the way you think.
Thank you. I have to say, I was relating to you when you said I wasn't like anybody else my age, because that is so true. I mean, I was such a weirdo. I wasn't, I was like looking for businesses to build and rental properties to buy on the weekends. I was spending time at all my rentals, going down and making sure the contractors were doing their work, collecting rent. All my friends were going out to the bars and, getting together. And it's not like I didn't do that stuff. It's just that I had certain priorities, and it is a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice to do this when you're young. But when you think about the rewards that you can reap, it's just so worth it.
I agree.
Let me ask you something. I'm really used to Greg's story of he got obsessed with this stuff because he hated his boss. Where did you model that behavior from, Rachel? Did you have people in your life that kind of guided you this way? Was it another pain point of something? Like, kind of how did you become so focused on this?
There's a couple things that happened as I was growing up. So first of all, we grew up in this really wealthy county in Kentucky, Oldham County, for anyone on the call who knows. And all of my friends in high school, I remember people getting new cars when they turned 16, people getting BMWs, and my family they weren't like that. I mean, we were always on a budget. We weren't going out to trips. We weren't going out to eat at restaurants at all. And I remember seeing everyone around me live this just crazy lifestyle. It was just this little bubble of wealth that I was in. And I just remember feeling different and feeling like, I don't want to be different anymore. And at that age, when you're in middle school and high school, you're self-conscious of it. It's silly now, of course, but you want to fit in. That's all you want. So, I had this desire at a young age to realize, I don't want to end up like everyone else that's struggling with money. I want to be different. I don't want to have to struggle with a paycheck, live paycheck to paycheck my entire life. I don't want to have to borrow money from family and friends because I don't have enough to make it to my next paycheck. I don't want to be on a budget my entire life. I want it to be different. And I realized that what I do then will either set me up for wealth or for poverty. So that's when I started becoming really passionate about learning about personal finance. I read everything I could. I did become a financial advisor after college for a year. And then later on, there was another thing that sort of made me even more motivated. I had a job in the real estate industry. I worked for a boss that I would just say was verbally and emotionally abusive. She was a bully. She made her employees cry all the time. She made me cry at least twice in a 9-month period. And I'm a strong person, so that's saying a lot. And, the way she just treated people with absolute derision, and just so condescending. I just remember looking at myself in the bathroom in that office one time after she made me cry and thinking to myself, I am never going to allow another employer to treat me this way. I'm never going to work for another employer. I'm going to become financially independent, and no one is ever going to be able to treat me like this again.
Interesting. So another commonality, right? So I'm for another bully boss that inspires a young, wealthy
Maybe I should write her a
to,
thank you note.
And Paulo's kind of talking about the same thing he's heard me talk about, but I am so thankful I went through something similar, right? And if you cried 2 times, I probably cried 10 times, right? No, but I mean, it was real. It was hurtful. And man, I am so thankful, because I know if I had not had that experience, I would have not searched for something else. And when a friend gave me a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and landed in my lap, and I read that book, I would not have consumed that information the same way if I hadn't been dealing with what I was dealing with over there. So yeah, I mean, we talk about writing thank you notes. I hope that I see my old boss. And if I do, I'm going to give him a big hug, because, well, after this COVID thing's done, then I'm going to give him a big hug, because he has been, indirectly, has been a very positive influence on my life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Interesting. So talking about COVID, Rich, I know that you just moved to Colorado. I assume that you have a property management company in place, but did you manage your own properties for a long time?
So another funny story there. So I always tell people, if you want rental properties to be fully passive, you have to plan to have a landlord, right? Or not a landlord, a property manager, because the last thing any of us wants to do is quit our job to become full-time landlords. Then it kind of defeats the purpose. So you have to really approach this thinking, how can I make this as passive and hands-off as possible? That means you're going to have a property management company. Now, I've made some extremely large mistakes here. I hired somebody who was a real estate broker. I figured she can help us do the property management stuff. My initial thought was, I'm not going to hire a big property management company, and this was me being cheap. I was like, I can save more money hiring an independent contractor and an employee. Okay, that was me being cheap. In hindsight, that's a mistake. The first person we hired didn't work out. The next people we hired, they had worked for us for a couple years already, and they had done maintenance around our properties, cleaning and everything. They talked to the tenants. They had good relationships with the tenants. These were people that were the most hardworking people I had ever known. They just always went above and beyond. So my husband and I, we were like, well, do you think we should try them out, put them on a trial period and see how they would do? So we made them employees of our company. This was a husband and wife couple. And they, started off fine. They were doing everything great. Then after, 6 months, we didn't know this then, but they went on drugs and they stole. They made a mess of things. We basically went to collect rent one Saturday, and there was all this rent missing. And so we were calling them. We were like, do you know why all these people didn't pay? And of course they didn't answer us. They stole $6,000 that weekend. We found out that they had been squatting in vacant rooms in our apartments buildings for about a year. So they were getting free rent, free utilities, free Wi-Fi, all that stuff. And they stole the master keys to our property. So we had to have every single door and every single property rekeyed. So it's like embarrassing to admit that now, but it happens to the best of us. It really does. And you will learn this stuff as you go, but I hope everyone on this call can just learn from my stupid mistake, because the moral of the story is go with somebody that's licensed, bonded, and insured. Go with a legit property management company. Go with somebody that if something like that happens, they're going to be liable, not you. So now we know better. In the meantime, we still don't have a formal property management company. We have some individuals in place because we're in the process of interviewing some of these companies. In the meantime, I have family members that are helping me do a couple things where I need them to be on site. And those people I know that I can trust. So that's kind of our short-term Band-Aid until we find a better solution.
It's interesting. You're at that about, I think you said 38 units. And that was the transition point for my business partners and I as well. We were, I think, 35 or 40 units, and we had been managing it ourselves. In addition to building our company. And we said, well, at that point, that's where we need to go out and find that out. What do you think the right number of properties for folks to go and find effective property management is?
I think it depends because it's just a time versus money trade-off. So, one thing, my husband and I were pure workaholics for 2 years straight. It probably wasn't the best decision because we were both working 40, 50 hours per week at our full-time jobs. This was all while we were acquiring the rental properties. Then we had, 35 rental properties. Even into 2018, 2019, we were still working. Also, I was writing and publishing books. I had 2 books come out in that time period. So you can imagine the amount of hours we were spending working each week. It just wasn't healthy. For us, in hindsight, we should have just hired a property management company sooner because that would have just given us more peace of mind. But again, it just is that time versus money trade-off. So you have to decide which is more important to you. You can go for a longer time without having a property manager and making more money, but everyone will probably get to that point where they're like, sick of dealing with all the tenant nightmares, sick of dealing with the maintenance requests at 2 a.m. And they're ready to say, okay, I'm ready to make it fully passive. I'm ready to hire a property manager.
And I think a part of this too is if you find the right property manager, it makes a lot more sense earlier, right? And, the standard for property management companies out there do not get you excited to put your nest egg, your properties with them. If you find one that really communicates, I always tell folks when they're going to property management, many people think just because you can Google it and find 100 different property management companies, that it's more like a commodity. And most people think of this more like a commodity that, they're a dime a dozen. But when it comes to success with rental properties, your property management decision is the single greatest decision as to not just your returns on your investment, but how much you're going to actually like your investments, right? And, it needs to be somebody you think of almost like a financial advisor. That's that level of scrutiny that you need to have before you hire somebody. And if you do that and you find the right person, then wow, it frees up your time. If you just do the bare bones and you just find any other property manager, it's not going to bring value and probably not additional returns to your life. And you're certainly not going to enjoy it. Right.
Yeah, I could not agree more, Greg. I just saw that Lee said, just go with purchasing JWB and letting them make you a passive owner. Yes, I think that's the way to go. I might have to see what you can offer me, Greg, and work with you. Pablo, I think you had asked about coronavirus, right? I don't think I had addressed that yet.
Yeah, I was going to get into coronavirus, but first I want to ask you if you have a little bit of time to go extra, because I also want to get into your books, right? I was going to kind of save the last 10 minutes, but we got into this conversation. So we can talk coronavirus. I just definitely want to talk about your books and writing a book, really, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's fine. I have 35 minutes and then I have to jump on another call. So
you have 35 minutes from now or 35 minutes total?
From now.
Okay.
From now.
Okay. Super. Yeah. Oh, then, all right, let's run. Let's do this. So how has coronavirus affected you?
Yeah. So Greg and I were talking a couple of days ago before we had this live, and I was saying to him, my rental income has been severely impacted, and I think most people's have. I feel fortunate because I'm still breaking even or profiting. And to me, if I break even for a few months and that's my worst case scenario, to me, I'm like, that's great. I'm not losing money. I am happy with that. I know there's people that are a lot worse off than that. I also know there's people that are doing a lot better than that. So Greg, when you told me, didn't you say that you collected 95% of rent in April?
That's what we did.
That blows my mind. So you guys are doing something a lot, in a much better way than I am. But congrats to you. That's really amazing. So that just shows you guys know what you're doing because you're making it through this with barely being impacted from a rental income perspective.
Well, thank you for saying that. It's a real credit to the team and the relationships that we have with the residents. And I think most people, when they hear of a larger property management company who manages thousands of homes, they just assume it's a big company that doesn't have those same types of relationships with their owners or with their residents. But I think at the end of the day, the reason why we're able to collect 95% of rent when everybody has been affected by coronavirus in one way, shape, or form is because of communication and because we're not viewed as a bill collector when we call up our residents and talk to them about how we're going to pay rent, right? We come up with solutions. So thank you very much for saying those things. It's something that, I'm really, really proud of in this time to be able to perform on that level. Because what that means to me is that people can have a little more peace of mind. Investors right now are struggling with ups and downs in the stock market, but they came to rental properties for consistency, and we're able to help them with that. And I think that's really important at a time like this.
Yeah, that's honestly incredible. And one thing I will say too is, just the idea of income diversification. I think there's a myth or a belief out there that I don't agree with, and it's that, if I have a if I'm an employee of a company, a big company, and I'm a full-time salaried employee, that's stable and secure. And I'm like, no, that's not, because what happens if you get laid off or fired or your hours get reduced? Then your income goes away and you don't have anything else. So I'm really passionate about this topic of income diversification, where you have multiple sources of income. And for me right now, the reason I'm not freaking out about making only $1,000 in rental income last month is because I have 3 other sources of income, passive income. So, my book Royalties, they're still making anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 a month. We have another passive income business. I have my online course teaching money management that's making money. So that's why I just think everyone should be aware of this concept of income diversification. I think investing in real estate and having rental properties is an amazing way to diversify your income.
I would love to do a little bit of a deeper dive on the book writing and specifically the royalties from it as well. It's something that's been on my mind for a while to write a book. I haven't put pen to paper, but just in our conversation, since we talked last Thursday, I've already purchased both of your books and the other book that you mentioned to me. I think it's called Published.
Yes.
So you're really helping me get there. But can you just kind of talk about the process of writing a book and how royalties work for those of us who have never done that before?
Absolutely. So a lot of people ask me, why did you write your first book? And at the time, I had been a financial advisor before, and I was still that person that all my family and friends came to for financial advice. I began to wonder, why aren't they reading or learning on their own, or, learning from articles? And then I realized, oh yeah, money is really boring. I mean, personal finance is a dull topic. It's complicated. It's intimidating. People don't like it. So then I thought to myself, well, how can I take this topic and make it sassy and fun and humorous and simple? And that's where the idea of Money Honey came from. So I read that book Published by Chandler Bolt. It was this amazing resource that taught me 99% of what I needed to know, from outlining to marketing to launching. Once I had that, then I had the confidence to put pen to paper, and kind of everything else went from there. I started writing Money Honey in January 2017, and I published it in September 2017. And it has been more successful than I could have thought possible. It has almost 550 5-star reviews on Amazon now, and it has resonated with female millennials specifically. I think I've sold over 20,000 copies, and the average self-published author only sells 250 to 300 copies. So it's blown my mind, honestly.
Incredible. I mean, that is just so unbelievable, really. I mean, as somebody who's so accomplished at such a young age, and you didn't just sit down and write this book while you weren't doing anything else. You were working 50 hours a week and running a thriving rental property portfolio business. I mean, it's really incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, it was like evenings were for writing my books, weekends were for rental properties, and then weekdays were for working my full-time job. So I had no life.
And you managed to crack it. Well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to, where are we at? Doug Lowenthal, who just picked up Passive Income Aggressive Retirement on Audible. Katie Derringer picked up Money Honey on Audible. So,
thank you guys.
Yeah, I've been putting the links here in the chat as we go through, if anybody wants to hop in there and get it. What I find fascinating about Money Honey is that you crack the code of making financial savviness cool for young women, right? Like that seems, what do you think made that thing work? I recently reread my book because it had been a year since I read it, and it was like so much better than I thought. It's so funny. I mean, there's jokes and stories, and there's hashtags and acronyms, and it makes it just fun to read. It's just a combination of things, I think. Another decision I had made was to self-publish my book. So I talked to Greg a little bit about the difference between traditional publishing and self-publishing. And traditional publishing, I always thought, well, yeah, if you get a publishing deal from one of these big 4 publishing houses, they're going to do all the marketing and promotion, and you don't have to do anything, and it's going to be this big success. After talking to traditionally published authors and doing a ton of research, I realized that traditional publishers still expect you to do 99% of the promotion and marketing, and they expect you to have a launch plan and to know what you're doing. So I was like, when you make a royalty from a traditional publisher, it's normally 15% royalty. Okay, when you do self-published on Amazon, you can make anywhere from 35 to 70% royalty.
So I was like, why am I going to give up all my royalty if I'm still going to be doing all of the work? I went with self-publishing. And I had zero platform at the time. I had zero following. I had no presence on social media. So I think for a first-time author, self-publishing is absolutely the way to go. You can make more money, you have more control over your product, and you can do whatever you want with your intellectual property, which is super important.
That's awesome. That's super valuable. Can you talk to how you go from book 1 to book 2? So now you are becoming an expert in passive income, and like you've aggressively retired. You now have let me start again. In writing this first book, right? Like Greg and I talk a lot about making content and how the value of finding your voice. And what I heard you just say right now is you look back at it and you're like, oh, this is funny, man. Like, this is cool. Was that an exercise that added value to your life of just like starting putting pen to paper and going through that? Or did you always see yourself as that relatable, funny person that could make finances cool?
I don't think I ever saw myself quite that way. I'm actually an introvert, which people think is surprising. But I'm just a strong writer. So I can say more eloquently on paper what I could try to say just speaking to you. And it's just a strength that I have. So my ability to make that concept fun is something I feel like I only could have done in a book. And at first the words like just flowed out of me, and I wrote so many words even that first month. But I will say, I don't want anyone to look at me and think, wow, she has it all together. She's perfect. All of this was easy for her, because I've told you the mistakes about the rental income. None of this was easy. What happened with my first book is I actually quit writing it 4 months in. And by that point, I convinced myself that I was a horrible writer. The book was a piece of crap. I convinced myself that it was going to be an embarrassment if I went through with it. And I was just thinking, who am I to write this book about finance? Who am I? So basically, I quit writing the book. It wasn't until I sat down and had lunch with a coworker who was a good friend of mine and told her about it. And she was like, Rachel, you're onto something here. You need to pick this back up and finish what you started doing. And I really took her words to heart. I started writing again, and I told myself, if I can just help one person, that's all I want. And that's the only reason I went through with publishing it. I was like, if I can just help one person, that's fine. In hindsight, that was the imposter syndrome. I was questioning my worth. I didn't think I was credible. I felt like a fraud, an imposter. And I think it's something all writers experience in hindsight, because the same thing happened with my second book. Even after I'd had all this success with the first book, and I was like, oh yeah, that's not going to happen this time. It was even worse for my second book, because I think I had so much pressure, so many expectations to live up to. And it's just this ongoing thing. I mean, writing is a very vulnerable thing. You're putting yourself out there. It can be very scary. So, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. There's a lot of things that make this journey hard, but it's so rewarding in the end. And if you do it with the right mindset of just truly wanting to add value to somebody else's life, and, finding a unique value proposition, why is somebody going to buy your book over the thousands of books that are already out there? Because think about how many books about personal finance have been written. I mean, who's going to write a book that's going to do well? So you have to think of, what is your unique value proposition? Why is somebody going to pick your book up over somebody else's? So if you can do all those combination of things, I think, anybody can write a book and be very successful at it.
I love your message there, Rachel. I can relate to a lot of the challenges that you went through. It's part of the reason that I haven't written a book too. You kind of convince yourself that you shouldn't do it for no reason, even though you should. One of the things that I love the most about your message in your book was just being real, that, aggressively retiring or building up this passive income does not mean that it's easy. And you went into detail about all the different passive income opportunities that you found and that you've done or that you've researched. And you talked a lot about how much work went into upfront, right? And then hearing about your struggles actually writing your first book. Can you talk to me about how you feel as far as like the work that goes into setting up an income stream, like a book royalty, right? Or a rental property? How do you feel about the work that's required? Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked that, because I think there are sometimes incorrect expectations around that. So passive income, the way I define it, it's money that is earned with little to no ongoing work. Okay, it's very hands-off. That doesn't mean it's a get-rich-quick scheme, okay, because it does take time or money to create. The way I view passive income is that there's two stages. Okay, in stage one, you're putting in the effort to build this passive income stream. You're getting it up and going. Then once you've launched it or you have it up and going, then you're in stage two. That's when it becomes very hands-off. So when you think about writing a book as an example, my first book, Money Honey, it took me 9 months to write. That was stage one. I was putting in all this work. I was doing my launch plan. Then I had it launched. Now I'm in stage two. Stage two lasts forever. Stage two doesn't mean that there's zero work. The only type of passive income that's truly 100% hands-off is portfolio income. The problem with portfolio income is normally you have to have like $3 million in order to generate any meaningful type of income. Most people don't have that. So, when you're creating passive income, you either have to have time or money or both to get it created. With most passive income streams, you do still have to maintain that income with little work, whether it's a few hours a month or a couple hours a week. Now, some people would say, well, that's not passive. In my definition, and in my opinion, it is, because you're not working a 40-hour per week job. You're not going into the office 9 to 5 every day. So yeah, I'm glad you asked that, Greg. It's not, you can't just, snap your fingers and have a passive income stream. You have to be willing to put in the work up front. And once you do, then your life changes for the better.
And I think the whole idea that somehow you could just create income that you never have to think about anymore, it's most people know that's not real. And then it's not even what we want, right? Like, I like managing money, right? And so if, for our clients, they get to manage the money. They get to manage the property manager, right? It's our relationship. And I like stuff like, I think a lot of our investors like that, what they don't like to do is to be the one to go and collect the rent, or to have a difficult phone call with a resident, right? We get to handle that for them. But, that idea, it's a fraud to think that passive income means no work for forever, in my opinion. So I agree completely with you.
Yeah, and another thing I'll say is I do think passive income is way more attainable for anybody rather than trying to save a bunch of money until you're 65 and retire. Because I think there's a lot of difficulties with that I won't get into, but I talk about it in Passive Income Aggressive Retirement. In the book, I outline 28 different passive income models. So there is definitely something for everybody, and you don't have to do all 28. I have not done all 28 myself, but all you have to do is find one that works. And again, I always go back to rental property investing because there's so many more benefits than just the cash flow. There's building up equity, there's potential appreciation, there's tax benefits. So rental property will always be my tried and true method for passive income. But the great thing about it is you don't have to be passionate about real estate investing. For me, it's a means to an end. By no means is that my life's passion, but I look at it because what it has afforded me to do otherwise. I have the rental income, which means I can spend my time working on my book business and teaching financial literacy, which is what I'm truly passionate about. Other people might just want to retire and sit on the beach or play golf, and that's fine too. Everyone has their own dreams and goals, but if you just look at it as a means to an end, it really can open up your life and it can allow you to achieve your dreams that you otherwise wouldn't be able to.
Awesome. Well said. I've got a couple questions here that I want to get to from the audience. First, I want to say a couple of things. Number one, Lee says you're doing a great job. Right? And so you can talk about being a better writer than a speaker, but you're killing it speaking right now, right? That's not my words, that's Lee's words. I agree completely. Second of all, I want to give people the ability to get your course. Tobin is asking, where do I buy Rachel's financial literacy course? And I'm going to make a couple of announcements right now before we get to the Q&A. So I don't know if it's an easy link that you can type into the chat, that'd be great. Or if not,
okay. I can, yes, let me get that.
Great, cool. And then in the meantime, for everybody that's on, again, if you are interested in building that passive income stream, you want to pick JWB's brain about how that can fit into your portfolio to go at it truly passively, not have to wait a long time, not have to find a property, but build it into your portfolio immediately and only spend a little bit of time managing it. Go to chatwithjwb.com. Any questions that we don't get to today, we will get to on our Thursday Q&A shows, which is Thursday at 12:30. To register for that, you go to jwbq&a.com. I'm going to put that in the chat as soon as we're done here. But you spell out Q&A. If you want to join our Facebook group, which is our little cool club that we all keep talking about, that we all hang out in and talk, go to jwbfacebookgroup.com. And Tuesdays. If you want to be here for next Tuesday, we have Lee coming on for Tuesday. Lee is no secret that he has got a lot out of JWB. So we're going to pick his brain about why he likes it so much and just get to know him a little bit better. If you want to register for that, go to jwbshow.com. And we're going to put that all in the chat, but I just wanted to put it out there in case anybody has to go. And without further ado, Rachel, you put in the course, so did Greg, into the chat. So if you want to go in there, we can put it, but I'm going to say it out loud for anybody that's just listening. It's course.moneyhoneyrachel.com/get-financial-hit together. That was tough, but we got it. And if anybody wants to know, if anybody, can't do it, just reach out to us. We'll send it to you, or we'll post it in the Facebook group as well. Without further ado, let's get to the questions. Lee is asking, Rachel, are you still putting in money into your business, into your real estate business, or are you truly retiring and just writing? You kind of alluded a little bit to that, but maybe you can go more into kind of your future plans right now.
Yeah, so I've truly retired and I'm just writing, just doing kind of what I'm passionate about. So the last property we bought was in 2018, I think, that summer. And then we stopped acquiring at that point because we were still both working full time. It just became, we could not keep acquiring. We didn't have the time to do it. So we stopped, but it's been good because we're at a really great level of rental income. And now we can kind of focus on the things that we enjoy doing. So yeah, this time I am retired from that.
Awesome. Very cool. Marilyn Cotterman, another one of our favorite regulars that joins us. She's asking, Rachel and Greg, do you add to the principal pay down yourself from your cash flow or save for the next home to buy or future expenses?
Oh, go ahead, Greg.
Well,
you go. Oh,
okay, I'll jump in there. So that is a great question. A lot of times investors ask us this question. What I do is I set up my loans to be 30-year loans because they're low interest and 30-year loans. To me, that increases not just my positive cash flow, but it also gives me options. And so rather than forcing myself to always pay more principal down, which would be a 15-year note, my personal opinion with my business partners, the best thing for us to do is to borrow that money at really low rates for as long as possible. But that doesn't mean that we don't make additional principal payments. We actually plan out each year how much of additional principal we're going to be paying back based on the profits that we have in the business. And because our overall goal is to get our debt down to a lower level than we originally had. I do believe in debt, and holding on to smart, inexpensive debt is incredibly powerful. So I don't want to pay it all off. But I don't always want it to be at 75% of my loan to value. I want it to come down to 50% or 55% or so. So that's what we do to basically kind of continually build up that equity for us, which is a conservative move. And so, yes, to answer your question, I get 30-year loans and I make specific strategic contributions to the principal pay down.
Okay, that's cool. That's good to know. So we do something a little bit different. I guess the way I look at it is, what are your financial goals with the rental property? Are you looking for passive income and as much cash flow as possible? Or are you looking for building up wealth long-term by having equity? For me, it's all about passive income all the time. So I don't make any extra payments to pay my principal down. Like Greg, most of my properties are on 25 or 30-year loans. And when we first bought them, we put 20 to 25% down on every single property. So I'm comfortable from a debt to equity position. I feel pretty comfortable with that. But yeah, I don't make any extra payments just because I want to maximize my cash flow right now as much as possible. But that'll be different for everybody, just depending on what your goals are.
One other thing to add there, when you give yourself the flexibility of taking out 30-year loans, you can strategically choose which debt you want to pay down as well. So you give yourself more options. What a lot of investors will do, it's called the cascading effect or the waterfall effect. We get all this passive income. Maybe it's $500 or $1,000 a month of passive income through the different properties. Well, if we really want to attack one mortgage, that's much better to do than just kind of spreading it around, right? You might be able to attack one mortgage and get that thing paid off completely much quicker. And then that opens up more cash flow for you to enjoy and do other things. So that's why we give ourselves a little bit more options. And I think, Rachel, your strategy is spot on as well.
Yeah, no, that's really smart. If you're going to pay it down, I would do the same thing. Pay off one at a time so that you can free up that extra cash flow. Super smart.
All right, that was super educational. That was my favorite moment of this whole thing.
There's always one moment where Pablo just looks and he's like, wow, that was a cool nugget. That was awesome. I think we just had it.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. That goes into the golden nugget for the email of a little thing that we chop out and send to the whole list. You said you have 27 strategies for passive income in your book.
28. Yep.
28. Mm-hmm. Sorry. And you're currently employing 3 of them. Do you see yourself expanding into any of the other ones? Do you have any kind of timeline for that?
So I had 3 up until recently, and then I launched my online course, which is another type of passive income. So now I have 4. To me, it's like, do what's already working well and just do more of it. So I'll probably stick with the ones that I have. I've thought before about making some type of membership thing or some type of mastermind. That's not exactly passive income though. But I really enjoy the ones that I have. This year, I'm going to focus on creating more online courses. So I want to launch my first course about passive income later this year. That's my big focus this year, is doing all the course things. So I'll probably stick to these 4 going forward.
Awesome. And, we're wrapping up. We'll let you off here, Rachel. I kind of want to give you a platform to either promote your book or either one of your books or your course, or I know that you have a Facebook group. What's the best way to get a hold of you? What's the best way to follow you online?
Thank you. If you search Money Honey Rachel, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. So if you guys like funny money memes, I post a lot of those. And both my books are available, ebook, audiobook, and paperback on Amazon. So there's Money Honey and Passive Income Aggressive Retirement. Another thing that I'll do for you guys is I'll give you my free passive income bonus kit, which is like a 5-page PDF, but it includes the 3 mistakes to avoid when you're building passive income. It helps you decide which type of passive income that might be best for you to pursue first. Lots of free resources and tools. So if anyone wants to download that, that's totally free. That's moneyhoneyrachel.com/bonus. So you can go there to sign up for that.
All right. Outstanding. Rachel, last question. Where do you, I know that you just moved from Louisville to Colorado. You're kind of embarking on what sounds like your next phase in life, right? Like, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Wow, 10 years. My big dream that I eventually want to do is actually write a fiction novel and become a best-selling fiction novelist. It's something that I'm a really creative person, and it's always been fun. When I was little, I would write short stories and stuff. So I want to eventually do that in 10 years. But otherwise, the lifestyle I have right now is kind of my dream. So I'm just want to stay very grateful and fortunate and do all the hiking and climb all the mountains and have a lot of fun with my husband and my dog and just live the life.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. I want to thank everybody that's been on this call so far. I want to give a shout out to our regulars that join us every week. Richard Gill, you're now becoming a regular. It's great to see you. Lee, of course, Marilyn, Everett, Katie, everybody that joins us all the time. This is really, really wonderful. Greg and I really look forward to this every single week. And Greg, I want to give you, I put the links of everything in there. I don't need to talk for another 3 minutes, but chat with jwb.com if you want to hop on with anybody, and I will leave it to you, Greg, to kind of send us off.
Well, Rachel, thank you for being here. Pablo, thank you for setting this up. Pablo is the mastermind behind this whole connection here. What an incredible opportunity to learn from you, Rachel. I do have to share with you that you're making everybody here, myself included, feel incredibly old, knowing how much you've accomplished and such. And the fact that you're so young is really forcing us all to get more aggressive and accomplish our goals. So just really excited to have this connection, to be able to share this time with you and with all of our listeners. And I'm excited to see what you do in the future and excited to be a part of your success going forward. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Greg. You guys are both great. And it was an honor that you guys had me on. So thank you as well.
Cool. You can get going. So I'm gonna leave this on because people then post in Q&A afterwards. We leave it on, turn it on mute. And if anybody has any more ideas that they want to add into the Q&A for this week, again, I'm gonna put it all in the show notes. But it's jwbqanda.com to join us on Thursdays, jwbshow.com to join us on Tuesdays. We want to have everybody back. jwbfacebookgroup.com, and don't forget that the JWB mortgage guarantee has been extended through the month of May. If you buy a property and put it under contract by the end of the month of May, JWB will guarantee your mortgage payment for the first 6 months of the property. So if you're worried about the effects of coronavirus affecting your short-term cash flow, you don't need to worry about that piece. You just got to worry about building your long-term passive income strategy. And if you want to know more about that, go to chatwithjwb.com. And like I said, I'm going to put everything on mute and stop the video and leave it running. So if anybody has any more questions, you can populate it into the chat. You can populate it into the Q&A. And that's it, everybody. Thank you for being here. We'll see you on Thursday. We'll see you in the Facebook group. Thank you, Rachel. Thanks a million. This was awesome. Greg, you're the man. This is awesome. And that's it. See you all.
Guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.